international security expert Afzal Ashraf. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Mr. Ashraf. First of all, the general speculation seems to be settling on the fact or the expectation that the Israelis will try to cut Gaza in two and presumably use northern Gaza, Gaza City and Beit Hanun perhaps as well, as a base of operations to conduct more fighting towards the south.
Yes, that is certainly what appears to be happening. In fact, reports indicate that the Israelis had cut off the road out south out of Gaza some 2-3 days ago, which of course has a very significant impact on Israel's statements that it was warning people to go south, and at least on the face of it, it looks like they didn't want them to go south because they were blocking the road anyway. So yes, I think that seems to be the case, but it also points to the fact that Israel, despite its rhetoric about ground operations, doesn't really want to go into Gaza until at least it has been significantly physically degraded, and that would involve a huge amount more bombing and, of course, consequential civilian lives.
Is that kind of bombardment conducive towards the kind of house-to-house or street-to-street fighting that the Israelis might have to engage in once they do put foot soldiers on the ground on Gazan territory? One would have thought that houses were easier to maneuver with your vehicles than piles of rubble.
Well, indeed. And of course, we must take great care not to make assumptions about what the Israelis are going to do based on what they've said they're going to do. You see, one of the big fundamental rules of warfare is you don't tell the enemy what you're going to do. And if you remember, just 2 or 3 days after the horrendous attacks on the 7th of October, we were being told that hundreds of thousands of Israeli troops were on the border and that an invasion would be imminent. And of course, now, 10 days on, we're talking about incursions into gaps between the cities. So, the Israelis wanted to send that message out in the hope that that message would give them two things. One is cover from their supporters in the United States, Europe, and the UK, so that they would feel that the aerial campaign was going to be fairly swift and it was going to lead to something a little more humane in terms of ground troops. But it's obvious that that is not what they wanted. The second thing, of course, it was to frighten the residents, and along with warnings that we will bomb even facilities such as hospitals, UN refugee centers, and indeed some of the oldest churches and mosques and so on. What they have been sending out is a very clear message that you must go out of the cities. But unfortunately for them, this has not had the same effect. And that's one of the reasons why, despite knowing that the refugee camp that they bombed yesterday was full of people, huge numbers, they've said that, according to them, they fulfill their legal obligations by giving a warning and bombing those places. And what we can judge from the incursions in past conflicts is that one of their aims is to degrade the infrastructure of Gaza every few years, degrade the population every few years so that it doesn't get out of hand. It's what in military terms is called mowing the lawn. It's just keeping the numbers and the potential for progressing as a society at a level that is acceptable as far as Israel is concerned. And that's the only conclusion that one can draw, having looked at the number of casualties and the amount of ordnance and the destruction that's conducted every few years. And of course, it's followed by embargoes on building materials so that people can't rebuild their houses.
Afzal Ashraf, thanks very much indeed for talking to us this evening here on TRT World.
Pleasure.